I'm Gary Jones, State Auditor, and I'm here today to just announce that I have put forward a plan. I've been watching what's been going on at the Capitol, and for last year I put forward a plan called the 555 plan that said state income tax is 5%. I think 5% on gross production tax ought to be fair. And as I'm watching negotiations go back and forth and I'm seeing this really complicated plan that comes together, I thought, well, and then once it went down, I thought, well, why not just make this simple? And so what I did is, in fact, OCPA came out and said that they thought gross production tax ought to be 5% for the first 3 years, which is something I said. And the tobacco tax, some people were concerned about the cost of that, so they proposed making it 75 cents instead of $1.50, and I thought that was reasonable. And on the tax on gasoline and diesel, it had been proposed 6 cents on gasoline and 6 cents on diesel. But currently, the gasoline tax is 17 cents and the diesel is 14. So my proposal has always been, why not make it 3 cents additional on gasoline, which makes it 20, and 6 cents on diesel, which makes it 20. And so as I started looking at this and realized that all these different components of step up, let's simplify this. And if I was a mediator, what would I do? And so I came back and said, what if we did this? What if we did the 5% gross production tax and the cigarettes and the gasoline and diesel, but only did those? You know, kind of a reasonable plan to start off with and see if we can get consensus on those, because they require the 75% vote. All the other items, or a lot of the other items, don't require the 75 votes or 75%. So let's simplify this. And I threw this idea out, put this together, and actually happened to be walking down the hall and saw one of the Democrat reps and said, let me throw something by to you and see what you think. He said, well, let me talk to some people. Well, this morning I got a phone call and said, you know what, we like your deal. And I've talked to Republicans as well and said, I think this is a reasonable compromise for us to come together on something we agree on and move this state forward instead of with this continuous fighting, bickering back and forth. So with that, I presented this plan, and also have discussions with the Republicans on it as well. And I think it's reasonable compromise to instead of sitting here in a crisis mode, to get off a high center and move forward. So with that, I guess we'll let Mr. Copeland let you speak, and then I'll be available to answer any questions you might have. So thank you very much.
He did approach our caucus. Our members looked at the proposal he had as a concept, and we decided that we like what's in it. It had the 5% gross production tax for 36 months and then goes to 7%, like we've long asked for in all the negotiations. We think it's a fair deal for the working people in this state with a lower gas tax. And so conceptually, we agreed with the auditor, and we're here today to announce that all 28 of our members would support this agreement if we can get it negotiated with the House Republicans.
Hi, everybody. I have a couple of teachers here who would like to offer some comments. Carrie Manzer from the Norman Professional Educators of Norman, and Lori Burris from Mid-Dell Association of Classroom Teachers. Carrie.
Hi, everybody. As an educator, I just wanted to let you know that we are incredibly encouraged by the fact that the deal isn't done. It's not over, as it was stated on Monday. We hope that our educators will continue to reach out to their legislators and let them know how they feel about each of these plans. And we're hopeful that both sides of the aisle can come together to reach an agreement that will be best for the citizens of Oklahoma and for our teachers.
We've also we've spoken to Leader Eccles about this. The speaker isn't here today, so we haven't been able to speak with him about it, but we've let Leader Eccles know about this. We expect to be talking with him further, maybe tomorrow, over the weekend, or next week. But I think it's also important to note that there's another component of this that is the itemized deduction cap, or as Representative Eccles likes to call it Romney Light, that the House has already passed on a very bipartisan vote, and that is sitting over in the Senate and would provide about $100 million on top of the components that we've already laid out. So with that, we'll be happy to take any questions.
Would this be specifically for this plan that you agree with Auditor Jones with fiscal year 18, or is this for moving forward? I'm just trying to figure out which budget.
Right. So it could be for both, depending on the timing. If we get it done in time, then we think we could avoid the cuts that the bills in JCAB today lay out. We think that if we got it done, next week, we would be able to avoid those cuts. So as we saw with the step-up plan, some of that revenue would have come in time to address the fiscal year 18 budget. So we're hopeful that this one would too.
Thoughts on what's going to be taken up in House JCAB this afternoon with the 66%?
Right. Yeah, so across the board cuts, we especially feel are unnecessary given that we are obviously still working on a good bipartisan compromise. We think that, again, those are unnecessary because we're still talking. Our understanding is that they are going to move forward with those bills in JCAB this afternoon. We don't support them, and we're hopeful that next week or sometime in the very near future we'll be able to pass a compromise that will avoid those cuts.
If those bills come onto the floor next week, you'll be voting against these cuts?
Absolutely. We think that cuts are premature at this point. We think they're completely avoidable. And this, we think, is a reasonable compromise. And we're hopeful that the other side will come to the table, talk to us about it, and hopefully get this deal done.
Well, if the Republicans will need Democrats to make the cuts.
Correct. They don't technically need us. Budget cuts take 51 votes. They've been cutting for years without our votes. So they certainly could do that without us.
Republicans are the ones that would have to be bringing this 555 plan to the floor. What are we looking at for timelines? Because if they want to push these 51 measures for cuts next week early before any type of deal can be struck, and still not sure how receptive the leader is going to be, even if you say that Speaker Eccles or Floor Leader Eccles is somewhat receptive to it.
Right, so they wouldn't have to push those cuts forward until we sat down and talked about this. So our ideal timeline would be that we reach a deal, tomorrow, over the weekend, early next week, and we don't have to move forward with those cuts. Anything else?
One thing to remember, I'm David Perryman, I'm the minority floor leader, and one thing that's very important with this that we're encouraged about is that, as we have said, there's no reason for negotiations to end, and the artificial heels in the dirt and refusal to continue negotiations has been very frustrating to us, and so we're appreciative of Gary Jones, the state auditor, for bringing this plan and trying to open those negotiations back up again. And the encouragement should be appreciated by the entire state. And most particularly, this will fund a $5,000 teacher raise. It will produce adequate revenues for the STEP plan that the state employees OPEA has requested and brought forward. So it's so important for us to continue forward in that, and that's our intent to meet those immediate needs and to get things going in the right direction.
Has OPEA, OEA been made aware of your plans?
Yeah, yes, they have, and as a matter of fact, the encouragement that we have is also shared by those organizations. And just moments ago, in talking with OEA. They are very encouraged that negotiations are not ending. And once again, that was the frustration on our part. It seemed that they were artificially ended, and we're glad that that it now appears that they're not ended. And Gary Jones has brought this forward, and we're ready to continue negotiations.